Hey folks, welcome to the Bass Shed Podcast. My name is Ryan Roberts. I want to take a quick second to talk about D. Lakin Basses. You can customize the bass of your dreams, and each order starts with a conversation with Dan Lakin. Dan Lakin is a co-founder of Lakeland Basses. His new company, D. Lakin Basses, are custom basses, and you can call Dan direct. Dan's number is 312-576-3943. Once again, that is D. Lakin Basses. Customize the bass of your dreams. Give Dan a call, 312-576-3943. To learn more about him, you can also check out the podcast episode with Dan Lakin. Welcome to episode 39 of the Bass Shed Podcast. My guest is Molly Parden. Molly Parden is a bassist and also a singer-songwriter. And we spent a lot of time talking about her new EP, Rosemary, that came out November 13th. There will be links to that at thebassshed.com/podcast/Molly Parden. You can go check out the record. It's a great record. I listened to it and took a few pages of notes and got a chance to talk through a lot of that with her and more. We really go into a lot of where she's at personally in her writing process, and also how growing up in a big family, how that may have affected her songwriting and things like that. It's a fantastic conversation, and it was great. It was great to have the time to connect with her. How you doing out there?
I'm doing pretty good. I've just been enjoying this time not touring. And,
okay. How many, two questions, actually.
Yeah.
How many dates did you have on the books that got canceled? And two, what was your touring schedule up until all the cancellations?
I had between 5 and 6 weeks canceled. The majority of that was playing bass and tour managing.
Okay.
I had 3 Molly Parden shows canceled. So before that, I toured right up until March 8th. March 8th was my last show. And then I feel like the week after that, quarantine started to set in.
Sure.
So I was lucky enough to be one of the few acts that got to tour this year.
Yeah, right. At all.
Yeah. And before that, it was just, I guess I would say I toured about 4 months out of the year.
Okay.
Almost half the year.
Yeah.
Well, quite. But yeah, it's just pretty random. I'm at the mercy of friends and my own proactivity for reaching out to ask bands if I can open for them, because I don't have a booking agent, so I do it all myself.
Okay. We're gonna come back to that for sure.
Okay.
Who were you touring with as a bassist?
Faye Webster.
Okay. I'm not hip. What's Faye Webster all about?
Well, she is an Atlanta, one of the few people actually born in Atlanta, and she's still based there. And she just has this magical, dreamy, folk sensibilities.
Okay.
And she uses a lot of major 7 chords and has a pedal steel player, so.
Okay, both of those are dreamy, yeah.
Yeah, so she has this beautiful lilting voice that just kind of sings just like nonchalant everyday phrases, and kind of unassuming everyday phrases, and
okay.
Yeah, she's the coolest. She's pretty young and has a great presence at shows and on the internet, where most of her young comrades congregate.
Comrades.
Yeah.
Solid.
But yeah, she's like 8.5 years younger than me, and we've been friends since I lived in Atlanta for 3 years from 2010 to 2013. So I met her when I lived there, and yeah, she started taking me out on tour at the end of 2017 as her bass
Okay.
player, and
Sweet.
it's super fun. But yeah, I that's the only person I play bass for,
Okay.
because truth be told, I'm not a bass player. I just have been faking it.
Cat's out of the bag.
Yeah, I mean, it's really fun. I've wanted to play bass, so I suppose I do play bass, but I'm a baby bass player.
Okay.
So I was kind of nervous to accept this invitation because I feel like a fraud a little bit, but I guess you can interview me as a novice.
I'm actually interested, after listening to the EP, interested in interviewing as a singer-songwriter. The problem with this podcast, I'm sure there's many. One of them that I'm aware of is the name of it. Like, it seems so bass-centric, which it's not really. I mean,
Okay,
it kind of is, but honestly, talking to bass players over and over again gets monotonous.
sure.
So I'm not that.
Boring.
I'm interested, but I'm not super interested. Like, hey, bro, what kind of strings are you playing? Like, I don't need to ask a bunch of different people that.
Sure.
And and I think like the biggest kind of takeaways I've had in my career, have been not from bass players.
Yeah,
They've been from other instrumentalists I play with, or people that just have a completely different vantage point on music based on their role within what's happening. So I'm more interested to kind of go down that rabbit hole.
okay.
Uh, yeah. So I did hear your EP, and great stuff. I got like a couple pages of notes here that I'm curious about.
Amazing.
Um, this EP is which? How many records do you have out total?
Well, I haven't been counting EPs as records, but is that erroneous? Should I count EPs as records?
It's recorded work released in the world. I'm gonna say yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I have one, two, three, four records.
Okay.
Three are EPs, one is an LP.
Your latest EP. When is it slated to be released?
Slated to be released November 13th.
6 songs. At any point, please correct me.
Okay.
My takeaways, like initially, were it has this very warm kind of feel good energy to it, and it has almost like a journal quality.
Great. Love it.
Uh, okay, good. Wanted to make sure I didn't step on your toes.
No way.
Um, yeah, so okay, so like the EP is called Rosemary, and then I'm looking at the track list, and there's no song called Rosemary. So, like, question number one, what are we talking about here with calling the EP Rosemary? It does come into play in the very last song.
Yeah.
That I have a lot of questions about, and that was kind of a big reveal for me. I'm like, oh, there it is. All right, we'll get to that when we talk about that song.
Okay.
Uh, Tune number one on the EP is "Feel Alive Again."
Yeah.
Now, there's a quality within these songs where everything is. This one, I think, I felt the strongest element of this too, which is like you're connected so strong with the lyrical content.
Mm.
Like I can hear you thinking about the real narrative. What is the narrative behind that story?
Behind that song, man, that's really cool to hear you say that you could like feel me thinking about it as I sang it. Um, that song was written after a kind of traumatic breakup, a long time ago, almost a decade ago. I wrote that song for myself. I really needed to hear those words,
That's
and
actually a note I wrote. I'm like, who's it about, or what's it about herself?
yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
I wrote it kind of. I have six sisters, and none of them sing, and I
Okay.
wasn't really geographically close to any of them that particular day, but I just kind of imagined a sister one of my sisters singing that song to me. It was written to try to calm myself down.
Okay. Okay. I did feel that, and that could potentially be an option. Um, and I think that's great. And how did it feel to release that, like record it and release that into the world? Is that when the real cathartic action took place of once the song is kind of finalized and immortalized, in the recording process, through the recording process? Or did the initial catharsis happen just from putting pen to paper?
Yeah, I think the first few times that I actually sang it, way back in 2012, uh, those were the most cathartic moments, I think, for me.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and it's funny, I almost didn't include this song on the EP because sometimes I'm really not not satisfied with because I write songs alone and I write them on acoustic guitar. It
Hmm.
is sometimes distracting to hear a rhythm section on a especially a ballad like this, a really tender song
Yeah.
that and when I play shows, when I'm opening for bands, I'm usually by myself, me and acoustic guitar. So I felt so much magic on stage and just in my living room writing these songs that I want to do my best to recreate that magic.
Hmm.
So I last winter I even got together with my mixing engineer Patrick and I was like, Patrick, we need to remix this. We need to remix "Feel Alive" again because it felt like the added instruments took away from the tenderness of the song.
Sure.
So we stripped back a lot, and and I just kind of thought about it, slept on it, and it was ultimately not the right thing to do. So um, I was like, well, I'm just not going to include it. But then I remembered telling someone else, a record is just a record of where you're at
I
right at that
I
time.
say that a lot. They're Polaroid pictures. Like
Yeah.
that's what records are to me. This is who you are at that time and place,
Yep.
and your thoughts on the world and who you are in it, and like that's it's a picture. It's a picture.
Exactly. Those are the sounds you wanted to make right then.
Yeah.
So I wanted to honor the sacredness of that moment in time when I recorded all of that and when my producers Juan and Zach came up with the parts and played everything so delicately and Patrick mixed it so well. Um, so yeah, instead of trying again, I wanted to just keep that intact,
Cool.
intact with the rest of the body of work.
Now moving into the second song on the EP called Kitchen Table.
Hmm.
Is this about the same traumatic experience?
Believe it or not, it's not.
Okay, man, you've been through it. Two tunes in, it's already like, all right, covered some ground here, folks.
Dude, I'm just trying. I'm trying to find
I feel you. I
here.
feel you. I get it.
I'm just,
Um,
if at first you
yeah,
don't see.
this one is like the depths of despair. But the way you reference these kind of seemingly inconsequential moments in day-to-day living,
Hmm.
like this song specifically, it's in the title, but you reference it there right away in verse one, and then some other moments just in day-to-day living
Yeah.
that you reference throughout the EP in your songwriting. Like the first time on Kitchen Table, I'm like, oh, that's cool. I like the parallels to all this. And then as it played out, it really became more special because there's a there's a sensitivity to these moments that are just passing by every day. but
Yeah.
then the humanity of each moment that you don't really think about.
Yeah.
Uh, there's a lot there, and I love that that was such a reoccurring theme in your writing.
Thanks.
And then but I thought that this song, placement wise, wasn't interesting in the arc of the EP.
Huh.
Right after "Feel Alive Again,"
Yeah.
so it's just like, huh? What was the what was the thought process there? Was it too connected in one big story, or was it? I mean, and it's fine if it is.
Yeah.
That it's just like, well, this sounded good next to that song. It's not necessarily a continuation of a emotional thought or anything.
Yeah. Well, and truthfully, it's just that it
Yeah.
sounded okay next to the first one. And honestly, Ryan, I recorded this body of work in tandem with four other songs, and I was intending to release my second full length this year. Like
Okay.
Rosemary was going to be a 10-song album, and when quarantine ceased all touring, it kind of threw a curveball at my plans. I intended to be on tour most of this year in support of this record, and so when that was no longer a viable option, I still wanted to release these songs, but in an effort to have a more continuous stream of songs, more content, as my distributor so gently asks me for,
Yeah.
uh, I decided to split Rosemary up into two EPs. A couple weeks ago, I was like, why didn't I call the first EP Rosemary Part One and the second one
Yeah.
Rosemary Part Two? I was like, what was I thinking? But I didn't. Whatever. I don't care.
Okay.
Um, so initially, "Feel Alive Again" was always going to be the first track, and then it was an upbeat number, "Sail on the Water," and then it was no, that's not true. Then it was a song called "Weather," which is kind of an upbeat number, and then "Sail on the Water," and then "Kitchen Table." So there was like um, there was a musical lift right after "Feel Alive Again" initially.
Okay.
That I wasn't really able to recreate with this EP because I only have one upbeat song. So I wanted to put that right in the middle. Yeah, that's kind of the answer. It was a little bit out of necessity.
Also, still talking about the song "Kitchen Table." It's in verse one that you say the line, "I'll know I'll soon be better without you." Like that's how verse one ends.
Yeah.
And then the very last line of the song is "I can't seem to find it," and that's in relation to I think a breakfast spot. Or, like you're
Yep.
talking about some geography places. It says "without you." Then there's like a little pause, and you repeat the phrase "without you." And
Uh-huh.
like at that point, like I felt as a listener that I could kind of hear you go down this rabbit hole of initially thinking like, yeah, this sucks, but okay, like all right, I'll get out of this. But then you don't. Within the song, you don't get out of it. Like, because after verse one, I'm like, huh, where's this gonna go? This could either go like, you know, it was dark, but now I'm doing better.
Right.
But it didn't. It
Well,
was like, I'm dark. I have this idea of a better tomorrow. But then, kind of as the song progressed, and specifically there at the end, um, it was just like full lament, full kind of like damn,
yeah.
kind of alone. And like so, the trajectory of the song is like we can kind of hear your struggle with wanting to be out, knowing you will at some point in your life, but then just like going right back into your own head about it.
Yeah.
Um, Fantastic. It was a fantastic. I didn't see that coming. I didn't see
Okay.
that coming, which was great because it's a little bit of a surprise ending,
Oh,
um, which I love in music. And there's a couple songwriters that always seem to I can find that
yeah.
with.
There was no happy ending yet.
Yeah, fair, fair. Moving into tune three on the EP.
Mhm.
Who are we kidding? Is the title of the song.
Mhm.
I have a lot of questions about this. I'm just going to let you talk about it, and maybe you'll answer the questions before I have to ask them. So, what are we dealing with here? What's the behind the music on track 3?
Behind the music, the chorus for Who Are We Kiddin' is an idea that I had been toting around since early 2015.
Okay.
And I didn't really know what to say. um, and I think while I was toting around this chorus, I knew it was a great melody and I really liked the chords. It's pretty simple. I, I thought that it needed to be more. I thought that it wasn't good enough to be a chorus. Just those 4 lines. Who are we kidding? Baby, I'm missing you. Who are we kidding? Can't help I'm missing you. I thought that there needed to be like a section B to the chorus.
Okay.
But at some point in like 2016 or 2017, I really began to like the way that I wrote songs.
Oh, good.
And well, I quit comparing them to other people's songs.
Okay.
And I was like, if I was done way back then and I've been holding on to it for almost 3 years, then it's probably done. I probably don't need to say anything else.
Sure.
Um, so I wanted to try to write. I was trying to write like a Motown song, some kind of
Sure.
sweet classic song. Um, and there's just not a lot of those anymore. I don't feel like. Plus, my repertoire is just completely sad. So I wanted to
I mean, Amos Lee made a great career off of it.
aimlessly.
Yeah, like all his songs are just kind of like, oh man, bummer, dude. But he's one of my favorites. But yeah, there's a lot of sad songs there.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, it was my attempt at writing a Motown sounding song. Um, and one of my producers even made a point to just like throw in a kind of straight. He I don't know all the lingo, but he like tried to make the drums sound more Motown and
Sure.
tight, and you know we put some horns and some strings just to make it sound like it was in from the 70s or something.
Sure.
Yeah,
I think all that landed. It was definitely like a very cool textural departure, um,
yeah, I think so too.
which I was into. I was, yeah, I couldn't because the phrase who are we kidding?" is always typically I feel like that phrase is used in life when like who are we kidding? This isn't gonna work out. Who are we kidding? That like the aim is to actually get A accomplished, but that means we have to discredit that B is reality. So who
Uh,
are we kidding? Like why would you continue to pursue A when you know that like B makes it inevitable?
yeah.
Um, that's what I was kind of looking for in the song, and I didn't quite catch it. There's some elements to distance in there. Another idea that came up was maybe some kind of like unrequited love thing, but I didn't. I never necessarily grabbed on to where the story was.
Okay. So it was based on an idea of like missing someone, missing someone from far away. You are the man that I see when I look into my dreams. I've got to find a way to make it a reality. I thought the pre-chorus is really what sets it up lyrically. I thought I could handle how
Okay,
it was to be away from the one that I love.
right.
And yeah, it might be a little bit of a stretch lyrically. Who are
No, I
we?
mean all good.
Yeah.
No good. I'm just I never because there's so many different approaches to songwriting. Some are very even from the same songwriter. Some are very literal. Some are more impressionistic. Um, that it's fun for me to try to connect with their approach to
Okay.
songwriting. Yeah, and like not even within the same artist, I don't feel like it's there's not one formula that works across the board usually.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, that was it was a good tune. I like that one.
Thank you. Me too.
The track 4. There was another food reference in the song. I know you can. So I was wondering, like, maybe she's just a foodie, and this gets into the songwriting.
That's funny. No, I mean, I just try to eat like at least 2 meals a day.
Oh yeah, you get that solid 2 meals going. Yeah, good.
No steak.
Kind of set the bar low on that one, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I mentioned food because it's something that I don't hear a lot of my friends writing about food or like
Okay.
talking about just food in general.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll talk about a lot of people in Nashville talk about whiskey and tequila and drinking, but
Sure.
not a lot of people talk about donuts or pizza or
No, I can't think of
nuts.
there's no donut market in
Yeah.
songwriting.
Yet.
Well said. Exactly. Exactly. Maybe that's the follow up to Rosemary. Is jelly filled.
Yeah, there you go. You never know.
There's a lyric on there that was really interesting to me. The lyric is, "You're not here, but I hold you in my mind."
Yes.
And that was an interesting thing because that was kind of a little bit for me a reveal about what I was feeling with the songs, which is like not like you're too inside your head. I don't think anybody can be too inside their head, although I do think I'm too inside my head.
Okay.
That being said, one, hopefully it's not offensive. Two, does the idea come before the emotion when you're writing the song? Are they working in tandem? Is it just kind of like this nebulous color that is the emotion that you're trying to add words to when songwriting?
Yeah, it's that.
Okay.
With each of these songs, I just had these feelings, these really strong feelings that were left over from a breakup, and I was trying to figure out what to do about them, what to say.
Sure.
So, in a way, these songs are exactly what you said at the beginning of the call. They're like pages from my journal,
Right.
and songwriting was my therapy. It's how I continued to process this breakup that just kind of shattered me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, music has definitely had that place in my life. It was 5 years ago, I was going through a divorce. And music was completely cathartic, both for everything that I feel like music should be. Like, it helped me understand it better
Yeah.
and understand myself in it better. And then also gave me an escape from it when I was just too exhausted from feeling it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's just some beautiful shit about music.
Yeah.
It meets you where you're at, and then can also take you away, and then bring you back into it. And then there's an escape hatch also.
Music
Go ahead.
definitely was my safe haven.
Did you start writing in relation to some emotions you needed to process? Is that really what got you started as a songwriter?
No, actually, I didn't see myself as a songwriter for a while. The first song I wrote was because a friend of mine asked if he heard me playing some cover songs and asked if I ever had ever written a song of my own. And I said no, and he said you should try. So I did, and I just I wrote it kind of out as a challenge. I was trying to accept his challenge, and I was like, this is gonna be so stupid. It was just a poem I wrote about my friend Hannah, and it was kind of silly. It was more of like a kid's song. It felt like it was just it was a poem, and then I just put a melody to it. And I showed it to my buddy, and he's like, "This is great." So at first, no, I was just kind of writing to amuse my friends.
Yeah.
And then probably a year or so later, I had my first, I like broke up with my first love, and I wrote like 4 or 5 songs about it. And I
Sure.
was like, oh shit,
Uh-oh.
this is
Now I'm
awesome.
a songwriter. Damn it.
Yeah.
That's great. Were you now when you were first starting out? Were you doing? I think I know what I did when I started like really getting into composing and writing. All I wanted to do was try to write something that had a similar payoff to the what I hear when I listen to my heroes. Right? I wanted to write these amazing pieces that were so fun to play, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And I was, trying to duplicate that. And I'd go and sit with their music and kind of analyze it and like, well, okay, what's going on here and how are they getting this done?
Uh-huh.
But there wasn't necessarily like a strong fingerprint on it yet. I was just mimicking. Um, did you find yourself going through that part of the process, or were you pretty? I mean, it started with your own poetry, so you're not necessarily trying to recreate a cover song that you had known.
Right. But at the same time, when I first started out when I was 19, 18, 19, 20, I was trying to sound like I was specifically trying to emulate an artist called J May.
Okay.
And then I wanted to sound like Mindy Smith, and then I wanted to sound like Feist. So there were definitely artists who I tried to be like.
Sure.
Even because I didn't play other instruments besides guitar, it was hard for me to orchestrate, or not orchestrate, but arrange or compose other music besides the chords I was playing.
Mm-hmm.
So I was definitely at the mercy of other friends who were also musicians, as far as like beefing up my acoustics songs. but
Right.
but I can like point to a couple of specific songs that I was trying to emulate over my discography, and even now, like I have this. These are the times is like my Chet Baker tribute. I was trying to write a Chet Baker song,
Mm-hmm.
so I definitely like. What am I trying to say? I try to sound like my favorite artist.
Sure, and I mean, I think that I mean, to some point, that's another one of the beautiful things in music is like we're always gleaning things
Yeah.
from artists we respect and being influenced and how that uh, works into our decision making process.
Yeah.
The next song on the EP is "Within a Dream." This one is probably my favorite on the
Really?
EP
Cool.
because it's just in and out. Like there's no, it's just kind of like pretty blunt, and
Yeah.
and it's earnest and honest. It's not decorated with like an elaborate story on the front end, and then all this. It's just like boom, here it is. I think it's it's like 3 verses, 2 or 3 verses, 2 minutes in and out, and it's pretty powerful in the 2 minutes. And
Yeah.
even production wise, like covers a nice amount of ground production wise. Really, really well done.
Thank you.
What's the backstory here?
Well, this is another really old song. It's funny that you it seems like you've highlighted my two oldies, Feel Alive Again and Within a Dream. Within a Dream, I think, was written in 2012. And that has just been a vignette that I've always considered one of my short songs, short, unfinished song ideas. I probably didn't even call it a song.
Okay.
I thought that it needed to grow up and, grow a chorus and grow another verse. But then around the same time that I was learning to like my songs and like my songwriting style, um, I decided to give this one, send it to the majors,
Yeah.
send it to the album, and
Cool.
let it be short.
Yeah.
I was like, I think it's quite all right to have a short song. And just like it's going to be quite all right to have a long song one day.
Sure.
Yeah, I love that song. I think I have no idea how I wrote it, but I was just channeling, this old musical spirit that just visited me one day and gave me this song. I guess I just try to write. I try to write songs that sound timeless.
Sure.
And,
What
yeah,
are those songs for you? Like, if you had the, not necessarily like top 5 or anything,
yeah.
or not even like the Desert Island game, but like, what are some songs that you're just like, yeah, that song will always personally mean something to you?
Yeah.
I mean, there's artists that release timeless music that will always be, but doesn't mean we identify with it.
Yeah. Um, there is a song by Bjork called Aurora
Mm-hmm.
that I love, and Weird Fishes, Arpeggi by Radiohead. There's a Dire Straits song called Why Worry, and Edelweiss. The Sound of Music is a movie that's very near and dear to myself and my family.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There's this a Feist song I'm trying to think of. Probably Let It Die. Yeah, those are among my tops.
Okay. Okay, so the last song on the EP is the song you just referenced. These are the times.
Mm-hmm.
The opening line. Like, I had to stop it. After the opening line, I'm like, oh man, that's brutal. I don't know where this song is going yet, but that's brutal. The opening line is, I wonder if you think of me. I hardly ever think of you. And I'm just like, oh, damn. Okay. The song really doesn't evolve in the way after hearing that I thought it might. But I definitely had to hit pause and just kind of process that for a second.
Mm.
Um,
How did you think it might end?
I don't know. I didn't know,
Okay.
but it was definitely like, because that is a fascinating idea to me. People that we've come in contact with in our lives from to a degree, whether it was a quick snapshot and they played a small role in our whole arc, or they had more of a significant presence in our history. I think that's a very real idea of, like, I wonder if they still think of me, and if so, how do they?
Yeah.
That's a fascinating idea in general. Then the next line, like, yeah, no, I don't think about you. It's just like, oh, slap in the face. It's like, but then I thought about it. Well, like, the irony is, she's writing a song about it, so she definitely thought about it enough. But and then this is the song with the Rosemary reference.
Yeah.
Before we get to the Rosemary reference, let's talk about this song from your perspective.
Okay.
Chet Baker.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Jazz.
What is
Trumpet.
Chet Baker? Did you see that? Did you see the movie about him?
I couldn't finish it. It made me emotional.
It's
I
pretty
guess
sad.
point. Yeah.
Yeah, good movie though.
I'll try to watch it again.
Okay, so Chet Baker. Let's talk me through this.
To unpack it lyrically, um, I was trying to think of a way to say that someone is always on my mind by
Sure.
saying they are never on my mind unless I'm doing everyday things that I
Right,
do.
because that all came back into play a lot on this
Yeah.
record. Yeah.
So I hardly ever think of you. Well,
Right.
only when I use my
Except for
leg.
when I'm awake. Yeah. Right.
And it was winter time when I wrote it, so I said only when leaves do somersaults.
Right.
Only when leaves fall off the tree.
Yeah.
Just on the days that mail goes through. Those are the times I think of you.
Sure.
Which I don't know how it is in LA, but we get the mail on Sundays sometimes. So
Okay.
I'm talking every day I was thinking about this person.
Right. Right.
But for the next verse, I started referencing things that were very specific to the person I was writing the song about. He's kind of known as a whistler,
Okay.
and he bought me an apparatus that helps me steer. Um, so like, there's a knob on my steering wheel that he got for me.
Oh yeah. So
Um,
you can do it one-handed, right? Like truck drivers use that
yes,
thing. I think it's
it's.
called like a suicide knob or something.
I think you're exactly right, but I've
Yeah.
refrained from using that term because it's just kind of weird.
It's kind of dark. Yeah. Kind of dark. So I feel like in modern culture, not the best name for it.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Wait, why is it called that?
I don't know. I forgot. I remember my dad explaining it to me at one point. Like, if your hand slips off, then you're just gonna run into something. Like, I don't know.
Oh, it's also called a Brody knob.
Or did you just Google it?
I did.
Brody? What's
Brody.
the Brody always just seems like some like, college guy that plays rugby. Like, hey Brody, you going to the kegger? Like that's Brody. That's all Brody ever means to me.
Yeah. Well, he's got a knob now. Um,
That's a whole other rabbit hole of jokes.
good heavens. A reference even to Steve Brody and was meant to describe all manner of reckless stunts.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. Well, I've got a Brody knob in my car. Anyways, that was a gift from this person, and
Uh-huh.
um, and then in the third verse, when I mentioned Rosemary, finally, um,
Yeah.
the first line references um, one of the first days that I spent with this person. Oh my gosh, I like came over to his house to say goodnight to him or something, and I walked in his room, and he was sitting on his bed with a cup of warm milk, reading a book. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. You drink milk before you go to bed.
Well, and warm milk. Like,
Warm.
I mean, that's the wives' tale, isn't it, so to speak? Or like warm milk helps you sleep. Isn't that a thing?
He is all about wives' tales and shit like that.
All right, all right.
I wanted to like.
So this is he's posted up. What's he reading?
He was reading Travels with Charlie.
I don't even know what that is. Is that
It's
like a classic?
Steinbeck. Steinbeck.
Okay,
Beck.
okay.
John Steinbeck.
Right.
So, but I have not been a reader until like last year because reading always makes me sleepy. But I've
Sure.
figured out to read when I'm most awake,
Yeah.
like as soon as I wake up. Anyways, but I wanted to like immortalize that memory, so I
Okay.
decided to put that in the song when I read before I go to sleep and when I wash my face with rosemary. So anytime he and I would go on a walk and he would see rosemary, like the plant, there's lots in California, there's not a whole lot in Nashville. He would like reach down and take a handful into his hand and just like rub his hands in it and then rub his like rub his hands on his face. Just the
Okay.
scent onto him. And so like I do that all the time now. And it's
Oh,
Rosemary's been like my little beacon of good memories. Um,
interesting. Do you know? So I looked up after I heard it, and I got curious because I didn't know if that was like, I don't know, maybe you just had like some Neutrogena rosemary scrub, and and that's like your nightly ritual, or
yeah.
maybe it was metaphorical. Um, so I looked up rosemary,
Okay.
and this is so hold on. The website I'm reading from right now is FlushingHospital.org. The health benefits of rosemary.
Mhm.
So, rosemary is a rich source of antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds, which are thought to help boost the immune system and improve
blood circulation. Rosemary is considered a cognitive stimulant and can help improve memory, performance, and quality.
Hmm. Cool.
So it's kind of you just to you kind of just said it, like, to go back to that memory. And Rosemary's tied to that, like the connection there to its place as an herb within the world. It's kind of deep.
Wow, that's really wonderful, Ryan. You're letting me know that.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
It is
Cool. So this song, now, Rosemary was intended to be a 10-song album.
Yeah.
Was this song still the closer? Did you want that reveal at the end, even when it was 10 songs?
Yep. I was gonna make
Nice.
everybody wait.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's there, but it's very, it's kind of inside. Like, you don't see it. I didn't know what it was gonna be until, like, that's the very last verse of that song or something, I think.
Yeah.
Like, that could have easily just went right by.
Yeah. I like little secrets in music, you know?
Sure.
I like to reward a listener, even if they're just like listening on Spotify, which is what I do a lot.
was that just kind of like a are you vibing out Spotify?
You know, Spotify and streaming services have been really good to me. I make a living off of streaming services, the revenue, so.
Oh, wow.
But it's just not the same as having an album, or like, it's not the same as buying a CD, you know, like spending money, spending your hard-earned money on a special treat.
I completely agree. And for
Yeah.
me, and I know I've talked about it on the podcast before, part of it is just I used to just go to CD shops and just, like, that would be at night where I would just, like, post up there, walk around, like, check out records, check out what's going on. And that was the search was all part of the process.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a personal thing. But now there's so much content out there. Like, I don't know where. And
Yeah.
searching is theoretically easier because I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to do anything. But there's so much. It's like, at least at the record store, it was compartmentalized by category or whatever.
Right.
Now there's just so much. I get asked kind of regularly, like, what are you listening to that's new? Like, nothing. I don't, like, it's so easy to find. I can't find anything.
Totally.
And it's kind of a drag because I would love to still be an investigative listener like I was when I was young, but
Yeah.
it's so daunting.
Yeah, there's so much music. There's so much. It is daunting. I get it.
Yeah, it's just overwhelming. I mean, it's the same with for me, any streaming service. Like, if I want to watch a movie, like, here we go.
Yeah.
45 minutes, like, going through all the different things, like, trying to find a movie.
Yeah.
It's like, I give up. I just wasted the movie time trying to find a movie. I'm out.
Right. That's funny.
Now, I wanted to circle back. You're doing your own management work?
What do you mean by that?
There's something we talked about super early on in the conversation that you were doing it yourself, and I said I want to come back to that, and I do, but I forgot specifically what it was.
Oh, okay. I was probably just saying that I've been booking my own shows.
Booking, that's right.
Yeah, I have joined forces with a manager, but I have not hooked a booking agent. So I've just been, like, reaching out to people, asking if I can open for them, and it's been working.
Has it been well received without representation? I mean, you just said it was working, so that's good. But do you feel like you're kind of sometimes maybe discarded because you don't have representation?
I mean, maybe. No one ever said that, like, in an email, like.
Sure, there's no way to qualify it.
Yeah. So, I've reached out to bands that I like or artists that I like. And sometimes they get back to me, sometimes they don't. And when they don't, I usually just, well, I don't know. I just go to the next person on the list. But
Sure. So how are you approaching booking now? Obviously, like here, there's things are loosely starting to open up. I've heard Nashville's more open than LA. Are you able to find little spots to do some local things just to get out and play?
my favorite venue here, the Basement, has started to do, or they are starting to do outdoor shows. But I'm not even. I'm gonna try to go to a couple of the outdoor shows as a fan.
Yeah.
See how it is before I just book a show. Because I'm not even. I mean, I'm thinking I'm not gonna play a show for another year, probably, and I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Today, I'm fine with it.
Yeah. Are you still writing? Are you still kind of working on new material, or is all that just kind of like off to the side where you work on some other?
Yes to both.
Okay.
Um, I am working on new songs, which will hopefully, finally, be my second full length.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm 4 songs deep into what I hope to be a 10-song album. And kind of pressed pause on recording. I've been working with a producer here in Nashville who has made some really incredible music with other artists that I like. And yeah, it's sounding so good. I mean, it's the best stuff I've ever made.
Okay.
So
What's
just
the tone? What's the tone of this new stuff? I mean, did you go through like another breakup or something? Like, are we there again as listeners? Are we learning about the new one? Are you in a better place? You're on your own 2 feet. You're moving forward. Like, what's the vibe here?
it's actually some residual. It's kind of Rosemary Part 3.
Okay.
A couple of songs that didn't make this album, that didn't make Rosemary. I tried to record one of the new songs in the Rosemary body of work, but it just didn't sound right. So changed it up a little bit and recorded it for this next album. But the tone's the same. I'm kind of doing the same thing where I just try to emulate some of my favorite songs or bands. There's one song that sounds kind of like The Innocence Mission. There's one song that sounds like it's off of Pet Sounds, and
I mean,
yeah.
Are you going that dense with the production?
It's pretty awesome.
Okay.
I mean, it's definitely not a Beach Boys song, but I wanted to make it sound like one.
Okay.
So probably half the density of a Beach Boys song with a quarter of the charm. I don't know. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
Sweet.
It's really cool to see that I get better with time.
Sure.
You know how I was saying earlier? Well, sorry, I wasn't saying this earlier, but I waited so long to put these songs out, because I thought that they might be my best songs I'd ever written or I would ever write.
Oh wow, you thought this was the pinnacle, the career pinnacle?
I mean, kind of, because they were the best songs that I had written.
Sure.
And I was like, oh shit, I can't. Especially when I wrote These Are the Times. It's one of my favorite songs.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn it. It's like, I'm only 29. Can't stop here.
No, you can't.
And,
What is
and I
where
didn't.
are you looking for new inspiration besides? Well, hold on. Actually, I was just thinking about something while I was asking that. If you go through like a breakup again, how do you channel that in a new way so where you don't write the same song or something that's so close to the same song? 1, 2. What are some other avenues of inspiration that you can pull from?
I have been reading like relationship and self-help and philosophical books over quarantine, and
Okay.
even like books about child psychology.
Yeah, all that. I'm super fascinated by all that stuff, and
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy.
it's so beautiful. It really
I mean,
gives me.
it's all right there. Like whoever you were at 5, like two things are gonna happen. Either you're trying to recreate that, or you're trying to fix it.
Yeah.
That's all that happens. The rest of your life, that's all you're doing is like mimicking it, and maybe for good, bad, and ugly.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just living it out without a thought, or you're trying to fix it all because maybe there's some things, there's some corners there that weren't the prettiest.
Yeah.
But it's all really fascinating to me, and I've listened to some podcasts about it, never really read a book on it because I would just fall asleep, and I'm more interested in actually learning than taking the nap. uh, but it is fascinating to me, and it's stuff I talk about a lot with
Cool.
like close friends and stuff. And those are long, long hangs where we're just sitting around talking about childhood developmental psychology,
Yeah.
as you do.
Right. Yeah, we all do that down here.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I have been so fascinated by reading, period.
All right.
And I can see that my thoughts and the things I ruminate about are shifting. They're shifting from kind of this self-centered, self-absorbed pity or wallowing in sorrow. It's shifting from that into like kind of zooming out to
Sure.
see a bigger picture, to see that I am a small inkling in a big, big world. And so I can see that shifting in my writing. Even I try to do kind of free writes, um, not daily, but every now and then, just to do some
Just
writing
just
exercises.
to purge, like not necessarily for a song, but just to purge a bunch of
Yes.
things that are, yeah, I used to do that, and I don't do it with any regularity, but I know when I need to. Like I
Yeah.
can just feel that the tank is full, and I just got to do this, and then I don't until I just feel like the tank is full again, and I'm just like and I don't ever go back and reread it. It is just to get it out.
Oh,
That's
really?
that's its purpose. Yeah, I don't want to reread it.
Hmm. Some of my songs have come from those 10-minute free writes. So I
Mm.
keep mine and I sift through them whenever I have a. I think you were asking me like how. Well, shoot, I forgot the question, but
Don't worry about it. I did too. Maybe like try to reference it. Maybe it'll come back.
I wanted to say that I write songs with a melody in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if there's no melody, then I'll just do free writes until
Okay.
melody comes to me. And then if there's no sentiment in the moment when I come up with the melody, then I'll kind of sift through my free writes to see if there are any phrases that stick out.
Interesting.
Yeah, I try to write really descriptively
Mm-hmm.
in free writes, even if
There's a
it's
lot of imagery in your songwriting.
yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
Um,
No, me too. It's I mean that's one of the things I think that attracts me to James Taylor's writing so much is it's just simple and so visual at the same time.
yeah.
That's great because I think I had this whole in my mind. I had this hierarchy of how people process music, and I think fundamentally they process it with their body. If it's a beat that they're resonating with, or whatever the mood of the song is, they're gonna feel it first, without ever their mind's not engaged. They're not actually thinking about what the song's about. They're just, what's the beat,
Mm.
you know? And then then maybe they start to listen to lyrics, and then maybe they start to think about the lyrics. But I feel like the ultimate is if a piece of music can engage someone's imagination to create the visual, that's the best.
Yeah,
So imagery in music is important to me.
that's cool. Wait, this is a podcast?
Yeah,
So my recorded voice is going to be on the podcast?
yeah.
Shit.
Why? Is that a vibe?
I guess for some reason I thought this was going to be like transcribed.
Oh, no.
Oh, man. Okay,
You
whatever.
now want your recorded voice?
Well, I just could have been more mindful of my ums and likes.
You're fine.
Okay, cool.
I do want to circle back to something you said about the period of your writing being self-absorbed and glorifying pain and ideas like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to relate that to childhood psychology. And you said you had 4 siblings?
Actually, Ryan, you might not believe this, but I have 6 sisters and 2 brothers.
6 sisters, 2 brothers, 8.
8
And you're 9?
Yeah.
Okay. So this idea of glorifying your own experience and pain, and is it because growing up there's so many and there wasn't time to get the attention for it, so you had to kind of turn within yourself to acknowledge it?
Yeah. That's quite a theory.
It's definitely a theory. I don't know.
No, I mean,
Curious what you think about it.
I think there is truth in it.
Yeah.
I tend to let thoughts, emotions, experiences simmer inside of me, and I tend to take a long time to process things, especially extreme things like a breakup or I'm trying to think of something super positive that I've had to that like doesn't sink in immediately.
Sure.
Maybe even like making this record. It didn't really sink in that I'd made it, or when this is released or whatever, something exciting. It just takes a while for things to sink in.
Okay.
And that is reflected in the timing of my writings. A couple of the songs that I've written, I did write days or weeks after the event that I'm writing about happened.
Yeah.
But many songs happen months and months and months after the event. And it just takes me a while to get the
Sure.
word. You were talking about being one of many children, turning inward to process.
You've kind of taken on this responsibility to be the side of the coin that helps them understand who they are,
Yeah.
and then lets them know it's okay. We're all there.
Yes.
That's powerful.
Man, someone asked me last year what I want out of music. And generally, I really loathe broad questions like that. That's just too broad. I'm like,
Sure. No. Yeah, I get it. I've been asked the same thing too, and like I'll always come out with some like smart ass response, like, dude, like I don't care, just give me a gig and like more money, like that's fine.
right.
Yeah.
But I decided to take this question seriously and try to answer it earnestly. And I said that I want people to trust me.
Very
And
vulnerable answer.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised at myself. But it's true. I mean, I bear witness to, my testimony of what life has dealt me.
Sure.
And write it into a song, wrap it up, ship it to the internet, and anyone can hear it. So the people that have really connected with one or some of my songs, I hope that I feel like they like my songs because they've been there and they know that I'm not just like singing a song with a hook.
Right.
I think they know that this is like therapeutic songwriting. And so I hope that they continue to listen to my songs because they believe what I'm saying is true,
Right.
And they can replace, or they can see themselves in my songs.
Sure.
So I hope that it's kind of cool to think that some of these people are like on this ride with me.
Yeah.
And maybe they will believe me, like when I finally do come out with a hopeful song one day.
Rosemary Parden, 93. Do you feel a responsibility to these people? Or is it really just like you're going to tell your truth and that's what you're accountable for? It's a personal accountability rather than an accountability to the fans. I think both are valid either way. There's no wrong answer.
Yeah.
And I don't think one makes an artist more narcissistic than the other.
Yeah.
But where does your responsibility lie within yourself in this process in relation to the fans?
Well, if I can be totally honest, Ryan, I write music for myself.
Sure. I play jazz. That's all we do.
Yes. So at the end of the day, like, even though I've never had much negative feedback as far as fans or people telling me if they like my song or not, I wholeheartedly want to make music that I like to listen back to.
Sure.
So I think that's one reason why some songs take so long to finish, to complete, because they have to be just right. I want them to completely convey this moment in time that I was going through. So I feel the most loyalty to like telling the truth.
Sure.
And then to me and my preferences. And I guess that could be synonymous with like loyalty to fans. I think like the artists that I like, I just want them to be themselves.
Sure.
So I would hope that.
And that's why you're a fan. If they continue to be loyal to themselves, that's
Yeah.
a loyalty to you by association.
Exactly.
Right.
So I would hope that is what my fans want from me, is just be completely myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like if we play the song, the game is song Where Are They Now? So like feel alive again. Like Closure, Kitchen Table, Closure, like where are these songs within you right now because of those experiences?
Do you mean like how do I
Like the idea that started the song. Do you have
Yeah.
closure on those ideas?
Yes. And it wasn't because I wrote the song. Like the song,
Sure.
I don't think the song provided closure, but yeah, I've healed a lot from
Good.
all of these devastating song lyrics.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
That's good.
Thank you for asking. It's very nice. Yeah. Ryan, I was going to say I'm a middle child too, and one thing I love about life is I don't know what's going on and I don't know what's about to happen.
Sure. Sure.
And it gives me a lot of peace about hard things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because I've gone through a couple of hard things and I've survived.
Yeah,
Like things get a lot easier with time.
yeah, yeah. One of my favorite adages is there's life after, and then fill in the blank. Whatever the traumatic experience is, there's life after it.
Yeah.
And it definitely does not seem like it when you're in the middle of the trauma. Uh, but there is always life after, and that's after a while. And unfortunately, like I had to go through a couple knocks to finally start realizing that when the next one comes, like okay, there's life after this too. Like, and that becomes more of a default perspective than it does something I really just have to have like blind hope in.
Hmm.
But it's the track record of yeah, there's life after this too. Cool, just go through it. What's next?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it sucks, but I think after a while, you hopefully we can all grow through some of the knocks of life and come out stronger on the other side.
Mhm. Yeah. I feel you.
Molly, this has been fantastic.
Oh,
Thanks
this
for taking
is
the time.
nice. I feel like you are a kindred spirit.
If you have enjoyed this episode and you're interested to know what else is happening with the Bass Shed, you can find me on Facebook /The Bass Shed, Instagram @The Bass Shed, Twitter @Bass Shed. All right, that was my talk with Molly. I think it's so great that everything is coming from such a raw place in her musical journey and how she writes songs. I think it's so much. I think it's really important to come from that place instead of just some like, oh, I want to sing, and then with these really campy lyrics that have a lame rhyme scheme or something. She's coming from a really honest, vulnerable place, and I think it's fantastic. And I encourage you all to check out the EP Rosemary once again on Spotify. It's on Spotify. I'm sure it's you can find it any number of places. I will have some links up to it at the Bass Shed, or you can also check out Molly Parden's website. That's all I got, folks. Till the next one in a minute.